And I will tell you this, I'll just go ahead and say it point blank. If a church is requiring you to wear a mask, you don't need to be in that church. You don't need to be in that church anyway, to be honest with you. But any church that requires you to wear a mask to come worship, it's time to say bye-bye. It's saying it's time to say
chances are they've
bye-bye.
got more than just mask mandate in that church. They've got church chicks,
absolutely,
like we've exposed before, is because they got AI. They're tracking you. All of this information is going to the government. We all know that. We've talked about this 100 times on the show. So, but just the fact that they would ask you to wear a mask outdoors when that's a wide open space speaks volumes to me.
Yeah. Mark, there's a good question that just popped up, and it is, and maybe it's good to define this. What is a false revival? Tell people what a false revival is, because a lot of it is false. A lot of these movements, and I look at what happened this weekend, and I'm probably going to get hammered, and we're both going to get hammered for this. But look, these movements, but Mark, these movements that are doing it to be marketed and to be promoted and to do this self-promotion, look, what good is that? That's not touching heaven. What did Jesus say about praying? What did he say? He said you pray in secret. Why?
Right.
That your Father will reward you openly. And the Pharisees made the long prayers. The Pharisees went out there and made these spectacles of prayer. And I'm not saying, and like you said, there was nothing wrong. Look, we're not trying to say that getting a group of people together to pray over a country is a bad thing. It's not.
Right.
But the motive is, if it's not true agape love. If it's not about loving the country and it's more about a promotion thing, neighbor, that's false. That is a false pretense and a self-based event. And I'm going to tell you something, the blessings of heaven's not on it. And what you just showed me, it grieved my spirit. You got
to ask yourself, Chris, what is the spirit behind the revival? What is the spirit behind the revival? Because if they're operating in the Kundalini, it certainly isn't from the Lord. And that's the scary part. And the problem is most people don't understand. They can't discern what's from the Kundalini or what's from the Holy Spirit now. The counterfeit spirit. And trust me, a lot of these 501c3s are operating in a counterfeit spirit right now. And look, I don't want a revival, Chris. A revival is something old. I want something new. I want something fresh. I want a habitation of the Holy Spirit. A habitation never leaves. Why is it every time that we get this revival, so to speak, it doesn't stick? Something's wrong. We want a habitation of the Holy Spirit, and it never leaves. That's what we want.
Mark, if folks will do this, and I've done it one time, I didn't study all of them, but if anybody's ever done a study of the great revivals of the past, they've all crumbled on that very premise. That it starts out great, it starts out with good intention, but it gets packaged, it gets marketed, it gets controlled. People try to control the Holy Spirit, and it's just like that river we talked about last night on Sunday night. Honey, you can't control the Mississippi River. When it's out of its banks, you can't control that river. And you can't control the river of the Holy Spirit. And the church has been trying to control the Holy Spirit since the day of Pentecost. And I'm going to tell the church tonight, the revival that's coming is probably not going to come to the organized church. It's going to come to the remnant. The remnant, Mark, I would argue, is already experiencing this awakening. The remnant of the church, the warriors, the army of God, have already been crushed. They've already taken a look inside their heart and life tonight, and they're experiencing this. But the corporate church is not doing it. And I'll give you one quick Bible example, and then I'm going to take questions. In the book of Revelation, there were 7 churches. There were 6 churches that Jesus spoke to, and some of them very harshly. He spoke harshly to Thyatira, spoke harshly to Sardis, spoke harshly to Ephesus. They had lost their first love. Spoke harshly to Pergamos. But even in the 6 churches that he spoke harshly to, he was walking among the candlesticks. He gets to that last church at Laodicea. Jesus was outside the door saying, I stand at the door and knock. He was no longer walking in those candlesticks, Mark. And let me tell you something, they were so busy with their religious activity, they didn't even know he had left. They didn't even know he was left. And that's when he said, if any man, the call to revival tonight, the call to this awakening, folks, the call to this grand thing that God's doing in the earth is not to corporate organizations any longer. It's to individual warriors and individual people who will hear what the Spirit of God is saying to the church tonight.
This is what happens right here. I tweeted it out September 15th. This is what the Lord gave me. He said, sometimes man will start off on a righteous path serving the Lord. Then at some point, a man's pride enters in and deviates from the path the Lord set before him. The Lord will lovingly correct. When man isn't willing, the Lord will step aside and allow man to serve his own will. This is what most pastors have done. They've stepped aside. The Lord has stepped aside because they want to serve their own will. It's all about wealth. And it's all about influence to these guys. It's all about numbers.
That's right.
And, it's a shame. It's actually sad right now. I don't know. But look, I want to go over a couple things here real quick.
Bud. Take your time. You're fine.
Questions here.
We got about 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Trump just tweeted out, I guess today, that Joe Biden just announced that he will not agree to a drug test. And he says, gee, I wonder why. You know what I mean? Yeah, before this,
oh,
right?
That's interesting.
And they better be checking for an earpiece, too, bro.
Yeah, the earpiece.
Brazil will be checking and will be getting the answers to the questions.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the debate tomorrow night, but that's good stuff. Go ahead.
Now, I found this very interesting right here. Is Mike Pompeo, this was this afternoon, or this morning, Mike Pompeo to visit the Vatican to protest against the imminent renewal of a secretive deal between the Catholic Church and China, which Pompeo says endangers the moral authority. That's very interesting. I found that very interesting. Don't you think that's a little shady there between the Vatican and China?
Without a doubt.
What's going on there? Something's going on there, bro.
Without a doubt, brother.
Something's going on there. The Church Militant. If you guys don't follow the Church Militant, I encourage you to do so. You can just type that in. They are a Catholic organization that exposes the Catholics, pretty much. These guys hold these guys accountable, let me tell you. And I kind of like these guys, to be honest with you, man. And what these guys have done here, it says Westminster, England, the bishops of England and Wales are urging Catholics to accept a COVID-19 vaccine based on the British government's assurance that no new human fetal tissue will be used in the making of the vaccine. What does that tell you? That confirms that they've been putting fetal tissue in the vaccine, and that's what people have been taking.
That's right. That's right, bud. That's
that's pretty much all I got right now, because I know we're getting close to the questions here. So
we got a few minutes. Britt Ammerman says somebody said Biden told Trump, release your tax returns, I'll take a test. And Britt says Biden doesn't pay taxes, he needs to do a drug test. I heard he likes cocaine. His son does. And let me tell you something. I've been hearing a lot of rumblings. And by the way, I know a lot of folks missed Director Mike today. Me and Director will be on tomorrow night late. We're rescheduling his show. But Director was telling me that there's a lot of rumblings around D.C. that this Hunter Biden thing's about to explode like a time bomb. And it's going to catch his daddy in this net. I'm telling you, this is not just about Hunter Biden. Now, I don't know the timing on it, but Joe Biden's got some problems, folks, in the Ukraine. The Ukrainian government, Mark, has filed prosecution papers against both of them. I mean, I'm telling you, it was a corrupt scheme for voter fraud back in 2016, and these dealings with Hunter Biden and all of this Ukraine deal and all these business dealings and all, I'm telling you, it's dirty stuff, man. It's dirty stuff.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Somebody brought up Jonathan Cahn's name.